Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the female solution.
Hello, I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case, and my very special guest is Alderman Jeanette Taylor of the 20th Ward. She is the warrior of the 20th Ward, which includes so many historical institutions like the University of Chicago and the DuSable Museum, Rainbow Push Coalition, and so many other very historical buildings. Alderman Taylor, thank you so much for being on the case.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are facing a lot of problems in the city council. They call you a warrior because you don't take any stuff from anybody. I like that. I really, really like that. Unbossed and unbought. And I wanted to know, what are the main problems that you're working on other than the deficit, which is scary? CPS, you're fighting them for more money. Everybody's after you guys. How do you deal with that?
These are not issues that just started today or yesterday. These have been long-standing issues along the city. We just got to be smart about what is important to us. 40% of the city budget goes to policing. Is that really what we should be spending money on? While safety is a consistent issue for everybody, you invest in the things you believe in. And so I believe in young people, I believe in education, but I also don't believe in closing this gap on the backs of taxpayers who are already taxed out of their communities. And so we got some work to do, but we also need people to be involved, and the city has to be smarter about how we spend our money.
So how can they be smarter? Where are they spending money where they could be putting it to more safety? Because everyone's concerned about safety in Chicago with all these shootings going on.
But safety is like an issue that the community needs to take on. We know who the shooters are. We know who are the young people who need help. We know the families that are struggling. We know the families that are on addiction, that are addicted. And so we need to make sure that they're connected with the services. What I really realized is the city of Chicago does a lot of silo work, which means one department is not talking to the other. And often what happens is people don't get those direct services. And so the city of Chicago has to do a way better job at making sure, A, that our constituents can get access to us, and B, they actually know what the city offers.
You know, I did not know that, but I had the feeling that they're not talking together. They're not talking to CPD, which I don't know if that's true or not. You can confirm that.
Those systems don't talk. The systems don't talk or work together. I am an organizer. I come from organizing. And so if you have an issue around public safety, that's just not the police in the automatic office. Those are the community organizations. Those are the churches. Everybody and our neighbors, we all need to be at the table to fix our community. And we haven't done a great job at it. And so it's time out. We don't have the luxury nor the funds anymore because we've been federally cut off, because we're a democratic state, let's be honest. And we don't have the resources or money that we have. And we got to be smart about how we spend our money and what we spend our money on.
And how do you feel about Trump being the president of only the red states?
It's disheartening because you are taught, no matter if you're on the red or blue side, there's this thing called democracy. And no matter how much we vote and participate in government, we're being cut off. It's a disservice, but we saw this coming, and this is what happens when folks don't vote, when folks don't get engaged, and we're not working together. This is a symptom to the sickness this country we have. We pick and choose who we listen to and who we want to be a part of these conversations, and that should no longer be the stance in this country. Everybody should have a seat at the table. The table's big enough.
Absolutely. One umbrella, as Reverend Jackson used to say. And so did you ever have problems with the ICE people?
So I did. So, I represent Back of the Yard and New City, which are majority Latino parts of my ward. And we did have ICE there. The beautiful thing about this community is there are organizations who work directly to have supports for those families. And so you allow them to do it. You support them in that. At some point, I did have a migrant shelter at my ward that got closed in 2023. But for the most part, I've taught my community, what to do, how to take care of themselves, not to answer their doors for people they don't know. There's still folks in my community who are scared or not as engaged as they used to be. And understandably so. We saw how bad ICE was in the city of Chicago, and that's intentional. And it's sad that we won't protect each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that they're spending they've asked for 20 million, I'm sorry, is it $1 billion to have these gloves that will shock people? Have you heard about that?
I have not. That is ridiculous. I try to not listen to the news 24/7, because if you did, you will go crazy. And I don't want to believe that I live in a country that hates me. I know it does. I know that's my reality, and I know it's what they see. But we're getting back to we're not moving forward. This is not what people fought for. This is not what this country is supposed to stand for, but it does. It makes it obvious every day. You think about this, how many folks have been killed by the people who are supposed to protect them, and the system looks the other way. And so while I'm not shocked and surprised, it's why this country is in the chaos it's in, because we won't do the one thing that we are taught to do and that we talk about, especially when it comes to Christianity and religion, is us being one. I am my brother's keeper. No matter what color they are, what they look like, I'm supposed to protect them as they are supposed to protect me. Now, we know that's not how it goes, but until we get there, we're going to continue to see a country that we're running into the ground. You can see it globally. We've never had these many storms in August. This is a sign. God is saying, y'all get it together. I'm going to help y'all get it together.
Absolutely. Planes dropping out of the air and
absolutely just all type of craziness that
chaos
never
and confusion. That
absolutely.
It's really scary, and it is a sign of the times too. And so
Absolutely.
What can we do? November 3rd is like less than 90 days away now. What are you doing to make sure that people get out to vote?
I'm reminding them that they have that right to. That's a God-given right. Some countries or people don't have the right to. Do your research though. Look at people, what they've done historically. What have they done for communities of color? What are they saying? Are they speaking your language? And vote your interests. I want us to get out of this Republican Democrat thing, because both sides have hurt people of color, especially Black folks. Let's be honest. And so vote your interests. Vote your conscience. And if you do that, that's all I could ask you to do. But not voting is not the option. Opting out is not the option.
Absolutely. And the Republicans are running scared. The president said that he's telling his MAGA base that if you don't come out and vote for me, I'm going to go to prison. How do you feel about his remarks?
The truth, if it's the truth, it's simple. If it's complicated, it's a lie. So he knows the truth, and rightfully so. He has honestly destroyed our democracy with some of the things that he says and he does. He's making it okay to be racist, which, let's not act like we know this country is racist, but you openly do it and you think that that's a badge of honor. Honestly, I can't wait for the God that you claim you love has the opportunity to deal with you.
Well, and so when you speak of racism in the way that he spews out racism, he has a history of that.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering, is it linked to, I don't know, maybe it's a stretch, is it linked to the hangings in Mississippi now? We actually have in 2026 Black people being hung.
Yeah, but that's because this country has always hated Black folks. Let's not avoid it. What I feel like is people now are openly racist, but Black people are different. We're not scared of the dogs. We ain't scared of the holders, and we fight back. And it's not just going to be with words and marching and singing. Those are things that work well. Now we're at a time where we got to protect ourselves. We have the right to bear arms as well. And so if you give it, you're going to get it back.
Well, I hope that does not happen, and hope that we
You
can.
see it everywhere, and I hate that we becoming that country. I hate that we're becoming that space. But you can't continue to build your country on lies and mistreating the very people who built your country for free.
That's
How long
true.
do Black people have to continue to wait for our 40 acres and the muse? We waited long enough. We fought, we vote, we're educated, we do the things we're supposed to do in our community. Leave us be. We ain't asking y'all for nothing. Black people are $1 trillion spending industry. And when we start to learn that we need to recycle our own dollars in our own community, we become self-sufficient, not relying on the government. And that's what I kind of want us to be. I'm an elected official, but I tell people all the time, the system was already built before I even got there. So there are a lot of things that are law that hurt my community. We're working on it to pull some of that back, but I also need people at the table to say, what laws should we put in place? What should we be doing in our community? And sitting on social media talking crazy and being keyboard gangsters don't work. What are you doing to work? We have amazing organizations that are in the streets every day working to help our young people, educating folks, and helping our seniors. We need to do more of that, and we need to do it collectively.
That's absolutely accurate. And you are also facing another food desert in your ward. There are like 7 stores that were closed.
So my Save-A-Lot was already closed. So I didn't have a Save-A-Lot. I was in conversations with Yellow Banana, who was not honest with us, and also wasn't a good grocery store. I don't just want a grocery store because it's a big name or it's a brand. We need to do co-ops. We need to do community-owned grocery stores. And that is some of the work that I plan to do in the next term, is to teach my community how to develop and build businesses of their own. We need to co-op not just a grocery store, but co-op some housing. Like, we can be self-sufficient. We can do this work ourselves. And so now it's time for us to educate ourselves and actually do that work.
So how do you build a community grocery store, which is people? How do you do that?
So they actually did one, I want to say, in South Shore. So we're reaching out to those folks to ask them to teach us how to do that, how to make it effective, how to do it. So there are people that already do that work, and not just in Chicago, around the country. And so we're doing the research to look at spaces and where they're doing these community-owned grocery stores. And that's what we want to develop in our community. People will fight for, take care of, and stand up for things that they had a part of. And so we want to make sure that we get the experts.
That's right. You may want to reach out to Father Michael Flager too when he gets back to church, because he has a food pantry where people get, when they walk in at 1120 West 79th Street, you walk in, you give in a grocery cart, and you can get all the food that you want free of charge. And then you roll a little further and you can get some free clothes. And then you roll a little bit further and you can actually get health care and utility care and rental assistance as well. So
we have organizations and churches that do that, but let's please, I want us to have a community ran, a community-owned grocery store. And I also want to do that with housing. The amount of money that the city spends with developers and folks who too often are not from our community to develop is ridiculous. And we're just as smart, we're just as brilliant, and we have something to lose. If that grocery store doesn't make it, we lose that. When these other people leave, they leave. Too often, they don't even support the community. They are just there to make money.
Wow. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more, especially on this topic, with Alderman Jeanette Taylor from the 20th Ward right after this.
Peace and love. I'm Michelle Renee, host of Education Nation, live on the Female Solution Global Network every second and fourth Sunday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The intention of Education Nation is to raise awareness about the literacy crisis and to offer information to combat the problem. The goal is to awaken an army of reading coaches and mentors. You will experience guests who are doing their part in the community to ensure youth in their circles are reading and thinking critically. I look forward to serving you in this capacity. Literacy is freedom, and Education Nation will offer information and strategies to help ensure our young people stay free.
We're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. And my guest is Alderman Jeanette Taylor from the 20th Ward. She is the warrior of the 20th Ward. And Alderman, you just said something very interesting when you said that corporations come to the city, they get money to do their building and development. Why not have, or maybe they do have, a covenant with the community they serve, giving back that way?
So that is something that most people do when we do development. We ask about local hiring. That is in the agreement. A lot of times they just don't follow the agreement. And you got to remember, the institutions that are currently in my community, they weren't built by Alderwoman Taylor. I haven't built any of those. I've built housing in the ward. I've helped some businesses grow, or some businesses that come up. A lot of times when businesses come to the community, unless they're asking for tip dollars or zoning change, they don't even come to me. And so we got to do something that I like to call we got to do city government 101, where we teach people how these systems and government actually works, because there's always an assumption. Anything that goes right is my fault. Anything that goes wrong is my fault. And that's just not how government works.
That's true. That's true. But there has to be some kind of way that corporate America can get involved with helping the communities that they are in and making money.
That is true, but those are for wards that are well developed. You got to remember, I came into office with 5,000 vacant lots. The Jewels had just got built. That Jewels was built before I got here. All these, which got remapped in my ward 3 months ago. 3 years ago, was already in the ward. And so those are things that were not under my control. I haven't had the opportunity to build a grocery store, or I'm in the works of talking to people about developing a grocery store in my ward. I'm actually working with Commissioner Bullwright of DPD to get a grocery store. And so those conversations, not just about local hiring, but how those institutions support our community. The only institution that I've helped build that has a community agreement and a community space is Friends Health. And so they've local hired. The business that they got next to it, we tried to get somebody locally. It just didn't work out. But they support the community. They give. They go to senior buildings. They make sure that on a monthly basis, they do Zoom conversations with the community just about health. So they're kind of keeping their promise and doing what they said they would do.
Let's take a break, and we'll be back with more of On the Case right after this.
What if you could have bought $1 of Bitcoin in 2009 when it was worth less than $0.01, just a fraction of a penny? That means $1 could have bought you over 1,000 Bitcoin. Fast forward to March 2026. With Bitcoin trading around $70,000 to $80,000, that same $1 could have grown to tens of millions. Now imagine discovering Amazon in 1997, Apple in 1980, or Facebook in 2004, right at the beginning, before the world caught on. History shows us those who recognize change early and take time to understand it are often the ones best positioned for the future. What if the next big shift is already happening right now, and most people still don't see it? Welcome to Breaking Free. Breaking Free is more than a book. It's a movement. Do you know money is changing? Do you know what digital money is? What crypto is? For just $5.99, you receive the Breaking Free ebook and audiobook. And right now, Breaking Free also gifts you crypto for free, giving you access to unlock the app, training, a reward payment system, and more. Inside members receive access to learning resources like AI, crypto, wellness, and practical tools to help you learn, grow, and move forward with confidence. Help educate, motivate, and elevate others while earning crypto rewards. No middleman, No delayed payments, no centralized control, just automated crypto rewards. Just by helping 2 people break free with us, our community grows and more opportunities can open for everyone. If you're ready to learn, and if you want to understand where money is heading, breaking free could be exactly what you've been looking for. Speak to the person who sent you this video and book a presentation to learn more. We'll see you on the other side of breaking free.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
Okay, we're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. My guest is Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor from the 20th Ward, the warrior of the 20th Ward. Alderman, thank you again for being on the case.
Absolutely, you're more than welcome.
Okay, I'm wondering with the CPS, with the children, why can't the city form a plan where, like in the suburbs when I was growing up, they had the high schools had a covenant with their businesses, and the students, while they were in school, they actually had job training, and so it gave the companies a chance to groom those students into the employees that they want, how they want. Why can't we do the same thing in Chicago?
I don't think we can. I think over the years, the people in charge have been business folks and not educators. And so when you got business folks, you follow a business model. And so they haven't really cared about how young people got educated, whether they got trained or not. Even if they could read, write, or cursive writing, they've changed education over the years and dumbed it down. And now we're trying to get back where young people could actually add, subtract, they divide, they can cursive writing, they could spell. And so we have to get back to just the basics. We do have a couple of trade schools. We have an array of schools now. Now we just have to figure out how we get young people to come back to a system that's pushed them out. You got to remember, we lost about 5,000 young people in the school closings who never returned and never came back. And so the things that we're seeing in our community are the direct actions of that appointed Board of Education and those folks who are not educators.
Wow. And so I remember when Dr. Barbara Byrd Bennett was CPS CEO, there were 60,000 students missing. They were missing. But we got rid of the people, I forget what you call them, that made sure that they went back to school.
Truant officers.
That's right. Yes. So do we need to bring them back?
Absolutely. But we also need to realize that CPS is not just public. They're public, charter, contract, Montessori, alternative, specialty schools. We need to rebrand what school is, know that one size does not fit all, and get our young people back into our education system.
So why do we have to have charter schools when they use our money? I don't understand that.
So charter schools, you got to remember, in their conceptions are nothing but specialty schools. The problem with charter schools, as a lot of folks saw it, is they did not have teachers that were certified. You got to remember, we had places like Teach for America that got into the state and that got into our system. And so who you have teaching young people probably for the last 10 or 15 years were not true educators. And you got to remember, when you close those schools, what did you lose? You lost more Black teachers across the city of Chicago than anything. And we have not recovered in education since that time. And so now is the time for us to do the work, to get more Black educators in our communities, in our school, and get those young people back.
That's very interesting. And I believe that about their not being educated, some teachers not being qualified. I remember when I was in high school, I went to Thornton Township for 3 years, and then I came to Chicago, and I had to make up one semester. When I transferred, I had to actually correct this teacher, Miss Fox. I'll never forget her name. She was actually teaching children that the subject could be the you know how you used to diagram? Well, they stopped diagram, and she was teaching the students that a nominative, a pronoun, that word I, could be the object of a preposition. And it's wrong. It's the object of the preposition, you know. So anyway, I had to go up to the board and actually draw a diagram. And she said, "Oh, I see. How did you learn that?" I said, "It wasn't in CPS." I was just so angry. So we do need, but we need more qualified teachers, and teachers who will dress properly, Alderman. Some of them
people who are actually, so you got to remember, so I'm an 80s baby. When I grew up, my teachers lived in my community, or they didn't live far from where I live. So not only did I see them at school, I saw them in our community. And so there was no room for me to not mess up, A, and B, not be educated. And if I needed the help, there were after school programs. We had social center. There were tutoring centers. We have to bring all of those things back to education. We've forgotten about them, and we just don't use them anymore. And so we wonder why young people can't spell or complete a sentence or know what a pronoun or a verb are, because we're not doing that. We're actually creating test factories. That's what's important. But that's what happens when you have non-educators in charge of Chicago public schools. We now have a person who was a teacher, a principal, a network chief, so she gets it. And so I'm hoping that she gets the opportunity to change the landscape of educating young people, and that the goal is to make sure that 90% of the young people, if not 100, can read, write, and arithmetic. That's what I was taught when I was a young person.
Absolutely. So what can the alderman do for her constituents, her students in her ward?
And so so the city of Chicago has no control over what happens with Chicago Public School. That power was taken over during the Daley and Rahm ended it administration. And so other than the city of Chicago able to give them TIF surplus and them come to report to us on a quarterly basis, we have no real power. But what we do is we work with Chicago Public Schools and City Colleges of Chicago to make sure that A, young people know that it's an option, and B, try to figure out how do we make the schools, and I'm gonna use the word sexy, that's not the word I want to use, but I'm gonna use it, enough for young people to say, I will step back into this system that I felt like mistreated me or ignored me or didn't give me what I needed. And so we got some work to do.
Yeah, a lot of work to do. That's absolutely right. And so do you give out scholarships too?
We do. The Chicago Automatic Black Caucus gives away scholarships. On top of, we have organizations that will come to us and say, hey, we're giving away scholarships. Can you post this up? And so we're able to connect young people to those folks who are actually giving away money and help them with some of their prep work to get those scholarships. A letter of support, some type of support internship where they come work in the office and figure out what government is. I am one of the older people who probably get the most One Summer Chicago, After School Matters, MIGVA Challenge young people in the space, so that I'm able to give them experience of working in an automatic office, see what it's like to be in government, help them learn what it means to be a servant leader.
I like that. I did not know that too. You need to get the word out more about what you're doing. That's awesome. But I'm glad you said that about giving back to the students. I once gave a check, a $5,000 check to a certain person at a certain institution, and it was from a man, a very famous African-American man from Chicago who died. and it was to give one student in Chicago a $5,000 scholarship. That person kept that check, and she has not, she's broken her promise about delivering it. I'm not through about that issue, but I wish if I had known that, I would have had the widow to write the check out to you. So I'm glad you're
God
doing
don't
what
like ugly. You
I'm-
don't have
I'm-
to deal with it. God will.
Well, I have to deal with it because it was my name. They entrusted that money to me, and I've worked hard to keep my name clear of mess. But anyway, so you also have a problem with pensions. What are you doing about the pension? People are
And
worried
so
about.
the problem is we have so many pension payments. I don't think people realize. So let's just say Alderwoman Taylor decided to become a state rep. She ultimately, once I go to the state, that's another pension. And so those pensions don't just add on to the pension you already have. So you have people who have pensions from the federal, the state, and the county. And so that's where the problem lays. We have too many pensions that we're paying now, which takes up a lot of money in the CPS and city, state, and county budget.
So I don't understand why isn't the state just sending money to them? How does that affect the city budget? I don't understand that.
Because we pay into the pensions. And when you get paid as a city employee, we're paying into a pension. You get a pension. Even part-time workers who work for the city of Chicago, we pay into their pensions.
Yeah, but that's just for the city. But if a person has, say, 3 or 4 pensions, the other pensions don't have anything to do with the city, like state and federal, county, right?
But a lot of their money goes to paying into those pensions. And so every level of government pays into the pension. But think about this. If you got a person who worked on the state, the federal, and the county, those are 3 different pensions. That's a lot of money that we're spending on pensions. When it should have, and I don't know why this is not anything that started with Alderwoman Taylor in office. It's something that's been going on for years. And because we haven't paid into the pensions. Plenty of mayors, governors, county board presidents have kicked down the bucket like a pause on paying into the pensions. And now that we've got all these people who retired or at retirement age that need their pensions paid, now we have to make these pension payments. And they're not small pension payments.
So what's the answer?
Pay into the pensions regardless of what's going on. That is something as a person who's worked their entire life deserves. You work, you deserve to retire a certain way, and you deserve to get your pension. And so now we're at the place where the rubber has met the road, and we got to pay into those pensions.
I understand that. And so, and I wanted you to go back, flip the pages back a little bit. Why did you become an alderman? What prompted you to take on such an awesome task? You have over 60,000 constituents?
50,000 in each ward.
50,000.
I went on a hunger strike to save Dyer High School. And as a person who went on a hunger strike, I saw how bad the city treated us being on a hunger strike. They would get food delivered to us. They would have people come to fight us while we were outside. It was so bad that we wind up sleeping inside of Operation Push. Rest in peace, Reverend Jackson, for supporting us when a lot of folks didn't. And I just was like, we can't make change if we're not making legislation and we're not pulling the covers off what government does and does not do. And so I decided to run and won.
I remember that I covered that diet issue, and I never understood why they wanted to close that school. Why did they want to close it?
Because that was the original space where they were going to put the Obama Presidential Center.
Okay. So, all right. And so how does the Obama Center affecting your ward? Is it a good thing?
It is gentrifying the heck out of my ward to the point there are 2 homes that are 4 blocks from my house that have sold for $964,000. Who could afford that? As the sitting alder of the 20th ward since 2019, I can't afford that home. And so who is that for? That is for the people you're trying to bring in the community. And we need to be in the business of protecting the people who already live there. We got to figure out how to do development without displacement. And the city hasn't done it.
So what are you going to do about it?
I'm going to create a citywide CBA that says if you're given city land or city money, the people who in the community have to benefit from it. And not just jobs on construction, but jobs when it gets built. We need to make sure that depending on who the institution is or what, that they do a property tax freeze around those spaces. There are things that we could do to make sure we protect the people who live in the community.
And what's CBA?
Community Benefits Agreement.
I like that. I like that. That's like a covenant, the covenant I'm talking
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely. It says that business or institution, they actually have something like a CBA around the United Center. The United Center is a for-profit institution. And so it's a property tax freeze within, I don't know if it's a 0.5 or a mile radius, but those people have a property tax freeze and the United Center pays the difference. Alderwoman Pat Dow actually wrote that before she became alderman. And so it can be done. We just have to make sure that the city does it in a way that protects the people who live in the community.
So the Chicago Black Caucus, how are they dealing with this, or are they dealing with it?
I don't know that we're having large conversations about it, because what you have to understand is there's this culture in city council that it's in your ward, you take care of it. We don't look out for each other. We don't support each other. We don't. And that's the entire council. It just is. And so we won't vote against each other, but we're part of the problem. I'm just going to be honest.
So is the Black Caucus not working together as a caucus?
Not as we should. No, we're not. Not as we should. The Black Caucus could do a lot better in us working together. And historically, I don't know if that's how it worked. But since I've been there, we haven't done the greatest job to do it because, of course, we're trying to support people, COVID. There are a number of things that happen, but we don't have that luxury anymore not to work together.
Well, that's what I had heard. Now, who's the chairman of the Black Caucus?
Alderwoman Stephanie Coleman is the chair of the Black Caucus.
Okay. All right. So you have a lot of work to do there as well. And so back to why you became an alderman. What are your greatest achievements so far? Because I know there are going to be more.
Getting the community to understand that the power that I have is theirs. Yes. That I can't do this without them. One of the things that I feel like is something that can easily be done that the community does not do is engage with me, talk to me, come and tell me your ideas, work with me to say what you want in the community. And so I'm literally at constituent day. The minute I get through talking to you, there's a constituent waiting for me to talk to them, letting them know that this is their government. It's not mine. I am their representative. And while we might not agree, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how we get to the middle. And everything in government and in the world period is not black and white. And so my constituents always have the option, if I vote on something in a particular way, they get to call me and ask me why. And I have to answer. That's my responsibility. I understand that some parts of the community have been ignored. They have not been engaged with their elected officials as much as they like, or the elected official just doesn't show up. And it's hard. You got 50,000 people you're trying to show up for. I do that every day. I barely take a vacation. I'm available, but this is what I signed up for.
That's awesome. And so you are also taking a poll. Tell us about this poll that you're taking.
So I have a thing called a community planning team. There are 15 people that I didn't know before I got into office who helped me make development decisions. So that means when a developer wants to get in the ward and they want either TIF or a zoning change, or they want for the property to be it's not $1, but they want the property to be cheaper than what they would pay for it, they got to ask that question to the community. And they got to have people who vote and say this. And there are people who actually live in the ward.
That is very good. And then, so why can't you have classes to teach people how to register to vote? Do you have voter registrar classes?
So we don't. We actually have organizations in the community that we invite to our events, especially right before an election, to just come, and if they need to register to vote, they could use the office to actually do that. You have to be a deputy registrar to register to vote. And so we invite organizations and people to use the space. We have an office space here that's big enough for people to come to register to vote. So we'll do that.
And where are you located?
I'm at 5401 South Wentworth, 19E. I'm in the mall on 55th Street.
Is that by the police station?
It is. We're on the other side of the police station.
Okay, that's great. That's great. All right. So I'm just amazed at the things that you're doing. Now, when you send that bulletin out to different emails, why can't you put at the top a browser, a view in browser, so that people can click on that browser and then post it on social media where everybody can see what you're doing?
So we actually do have a Facebook page. It's called Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, Jeanette Taylor, where everything that you see on this website, we share. Most of the stuff that we do on social media are flyers and things that people see us. So we have a lot of community partners and people we work with who are just trying to get the word about the good things that they're doing. And so our social media is basically used for that. When we're having events, it's another tool. We send out a newsletter 2 times a week so that people actually know what we're doing.
Okay, and those are the ones I'm talking about, the flyers and the newsletter. Can you still put a link at the top of that so that people can click on it and then share that with thousands of people?
Absolutely. I'll talk to the young lady who runs our comms and ask her to do that. You say put the link at the top?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, like some outlets will do that, and they'll say, if you want to read this in the browser, click on this. And then when you click on it, you can share that. Because people should know what you're doing. And I wanted to ask you too, what are you doing about, or what can be done about teen takeovers?
We need to find third party spaces for young people to hang. In the 20th Ward, we don't have a bowling alley. We don't have a skating rink. We don't have any of those things. But also young people should be able to hang out without tearing up their communities. We did it. We hung out. We went to the lake. We went to the bowling rink. We went to spaces. Like we're no different than them. They're taxpayers. They should get to hang in their communities. What they cannot do is destroy people's property and cause havoc, but they get to hang out. I don't know who in their mind, but I know why, because the majority of the kids that are outside are Black.
Yeah.
Most of those kids are Black. And so anytime that Black folks are doing something and we having a good time, it's not a problem. Did y'all call it a teen takeover when they knocked over the gates of Lollapalooza to break in? You didn't even hear about it, did you?
No,
right.
I
So
didn't.
it's like different strokes for different folks. And I'm just not into believing what the media is putting out about young people and them hanging out with each other. But they need to be safe and they need to hold each other accountable. And we should hold them accountable when they're doing wrong. But for them to just hang out and be with their friends in a group, that ain't a teen trend. We did the exact same thing.
All right. And so how can you make the police department better? How can you make safety better?
I think it's all of us going back to officer friendly. We got to go back to when we knew who the police officers were in our community and in the beat. They got to go back to walking the beat and talking to the neighbors and being the people but we keep us safe. They're just a part of the community. They are not the people. We can't call the police because your kid won't go to school. We shouldn't be calling the police because y'all arguing. Like we got to be honest about what the police are doing. And we can't police our way out of safe communities. We just can't do it.
Well, if you can't, okay, so, and I agree with you, you can't police your way out of that, then what's to take place to make it happen?
We got to go back to neighborhood block clubs. We got to go back to us talking to our neighbor and knowing the neighbor and the kids, and us being on phone trees and calling each other when something goes on.
That's old times.
Like you don't even, absolutely, but it works. We do not have to reinvent the wheel to have safe communities.
So can you start having meetings with parents? Maybe that's the beginning.
So it's not just with parents, you start with young people. You ask these families what we need. Back when I was a teen mother, I had my first baby when I was 14. I had a community and a village that supported me. My mother was only watching kids for two reasons: school and work. Other than that, I wasn't getting a break. And that's just was her rules. It was women in the community, women that I met at the school, women that went to my church that actually helped me to parent my kids. Because at 14 years old, I'm a child raising children. And so we have to be able to have spaces for mothers to have help. We had Beatrice Cathara, if you remember that. We actually had people who were at the school that were there to help you out. We had all these organizations, ADS McKinley, you name them, they exist. And so we need to make sure, people know that those spaces exist, but those organizations actually do the work with wards to say, I will sponsor a day at your ward office, have mothers come to here, and we can talk about the supports we have. We have loads of organizations that get money, not just from the city, but from the state and from foundations. Let's make them put their money where their mouth is. They got to do the work. And they only do that if we're connected with them, A, and B, we're making sure that we're sharing their information with them.
And what about construction sites? I remember covering many construction sites. They only had white workers, and some of the aldermen were fighting. And in fact, Ed Gardner came out years ago out of retirement when he's 89 years old at 95th and Western, fighting for Blacks to have a job at construction sites.
The unions is another whole podcast conversation. It's about getting us in those unions. A lot of times we have union workers in our ward, but they're working on projects in other wards. And so when it's time for me to get a project, because I don't always have a crane in the sky or always have a construction site, they work in other communities. And so we just need to be able to build a more base of construction workers. And that's making sure young people know that they have internships and apprenticeships to be in the unions.
All right. Is Alderman Kevin Ford in your ward?
Who?
Alderman Kevin Ford. He has the Church of God in Christ there. In Wabash? Or is that too far over?
What in Wabash?
It's like 45th or 48th.
That's not in 20. That's in the 3rd ward.
That's in the 3rd ward. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So do you know any Blacks who have, like Omar Sharif? Do you work with him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of my folks that I do construction work with and talk to are like Bob Israel, Larry Huggins. I have a relationship with. I work with women in trade. So there are organizations that when there's a construction site or something going on, they do come to this office. I do put out their flyers, and we do try to connect them to schools and young people who want those opportunities.
So can they provide internships? Can you fight
They
for
can. They can provide apprenticeships. Before COVID, we started to have the conversation with the trades about people, whether they graduated from night school or whether they were going back to get their GED, ways that they can get into the trades. And so we're going back to some of that work so that can happen. Because to your point, we don't have enough Black folks in trade.
And that's not.
And it's hard and it's costly.
Well, and that could be also blamed on CPS because they used to have trade schools. I know in the suburbs we had trade schools for, at the time they wouldn't let girls in, but they had trade schools. I mean, my brother has never been unemployed.
Absolutely. Yes. But that's why you got women in trade, and you do have spaces where women are starting to come up. But we also need to push that stuff in elementary school. When I was in elementary school, I remember in 3rd grade, us having a conversation about jobs, what you could and could not be. That is what needs to be happening on CPS. And under the last CEO, he had forums where he would bring the trades to different young people in high school. I told him he needed to start it like in 3rd grade. We need to start young people. Think about this. This is the same country that will use the 3rd grade scores to determine how many prisons they're going to build. Let's
Yes.
use those third grade scores to decide what type of trades and introduce young people, whether they want to go to college or not, because college is not for everybody. How do we get them into trades easier? How do we help them when they're younger to save money so they're paying those fees to be journeymen? Like, there has to be a real conversation and real information on how to do that journey. A lot of young people want to be in the trades but don't know how to get into them, and so we got work to do.
All right. I wanted to ask you too about the mayoral election coming up.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Dr. Willie Wilson is the latest person who threw his hat in the ring.
I am at this place in my life. If you can't show me anything that you're doing for our community, and what are you doing legislative wise, and that you have done, I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. Brandon Johnson hasn't been the perfect mayor. Haven't met one that was, not even here in Washington. But I will say that I'm proud of some of the things that got passed that people have been fighting for years, and that we have to be able to give our own people grace. The Black community has its own way of how we look at politics and how we organize and how we work together. We got to be better to each other, but we also got to be let a lot more into politics. And so I'm looking forward to this next mayoral race. It's also time for aldermen to run. And so I'm going to have people who want the space just like I want to be in the space. And so there is work to do, but whether I'm in office or not, my goal is to always serve. Shirley Chisholm says it better than anybody. The rent you pay on this earth is service to others. And so I will always be a service to this community, whether I'm Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor or whether I'm Jeanette Taylor.
All right. And so I wanted to ask you too, what I don't understand is why is there so much friction against this mayor from not just Blacks, but from Hispanics too? I don't understand that. We don't have the 21-29 bitter feud going on, but there's a feud going on there.
Because they hate Black people. They hate Black leadership. Think about this. Kamala Harris was educated. She was smart. She worked in government before. She was the vice president. Why was she not the choice? Versus someone who is an immigrant, who hates immigrants. It's like common sense is not common. I'm sorry. This country hates Black people, especially Black women. Yeah, and while that's an ugly hate, that's something nobody wants to address or deal with. It's the honest truth, though.
Okay, but Brandon Johnson is not a Black woman, and he's a Black
and I said
man.
Black. I started off with saying they hate Black people. He is a Black man that people don't feel like they have to listen to. Weren't this the same city who helped elect Harold Washington, and still he had some of the same troubles? We don't give each other grace. We don't know how to. Not in a country where we always at the bottom, but we build and we make and we are everything. It's always, and there's some internal things that we've got to talk about as Black people amongst each other. It's one of the reasons why I respected and loved Reverend Jackson, because he was honest about it. He didn't say things was perfect in the Black community. We got our own issues. We got our own problems. But he also used to say, we better work it out, because if you don't work it out, they're going to work it out for you all.
That's absolutely true. What I don't understand is Brandon Johnson is doing a lot of things that other mayors have not done, and it's particularly for Black people. And I get the feeling, and maybe I'm wrong, that there is a resentment of his doing so much for young Black people. Am I wrong?
Absolutely, you're right. It's not just the resentment of Black people. It's doing stuff for people who are not in the in crowd. It's for people who don't make $150,000. It's not for people that just Black people. There is a hate in this country. This country thinks white is right. That's just what it is. There's no way to put it. It ain't complicated. White supremacy lives and breathes even in the Black community. To hear, my mother used to say this to me: We don't have a problem with other people races. Black people are the most loving and caring people. We take care of everybody. The problem is we never get the opportunity to take care of us. And I get how some people will be resentful and hurt about some of the decisions he's made, especially when it came to the migrant crisis. He didn't create the migrant crisis.
Right.
That was already there before he got there. But because he wouldn't allow people to live in a police station, because he wanted people to not be homeless, and let me say this. Yes, we have a homeless problem in our own city. We had it way before they get here. And people have been working for decades to fix it. And so, but we also got a bunch of Black conservatives. As much as they like to think they're progressive, they honestly are, they're conservatives. We cannot live in a city where the billionaires continue to live comfortably and everybody else struggles. We just can't do it. And so you're going to have to pick. Which side are you on? I'm on the people's side.
You've always been on the people's side.
Always.
And I remember I had a lot of conversations with different African Americans about the migrants, and they were very resentful that he was giving, quote, their money to the migrants. And I had to explain to him that by law, he had to do that.
He got money from the federal government to do. This is why I said in the beginning of this conversation, we got to have government one-on-one. Yeah. That money came from the federal government and the state. Where's that same anger for J.B. Pritzker? We don't give our own people grace.
So what are we going to do about this mayor's race? We got so many. We even have a Chinese lady. Ma is her name. I forget her first name, but she's running. You've got Pappas running. You have the state of Illinois secretary running. How do you decide on who to vote for? What's the litmus test?
What have these people done to liberate people who can't liberate themselves?
All right.
What have they been doing? Are there businesses in the city that they claim they love? What have they ran as not supported? What have they ran in these different communities to make sure that people get some ease in their lives? And I'm not talking about what your job was. You got to remember, I was organizing before I got into this space. And I did it because I felt like every system that was designed to help me was hurting me. So it needed to hear from me, but I was not the only one.
So it's not a matter of keeping a Black mayor or voting for a Black mayor. Talk to me about that.
It's never been, to me, about it being a Black mayor because I'm a Black woman. I knew Brandon before he became Mayor Johnson. I worked with him, I organized with him, and so I believed in. He's made a lot of rookie mistakes, but so have other mayors. Y'all kept Daley for decades. We don't give Black people grace, and that's the biggest problem I'm just having with all of this. But we also got a demand. There was all this talk about Barack Obama, and I was one of those people. Barack Obama didn't do enough for Black communities. What did we demand of this person? Or before we supported this person, make them sign on a dotted line. This is what we want, A, B, and C. We need to, before we get your vote, before we support you, before we go knocking doors for you, before we sign your petition, what is it that you're going to do to better my life? These are the three things that are hurting me. Which one of those can you fix? And how fast can you fix it? Like there has to be some checks and balances when we vote for people to be in office.
Well, I hope you talk to the mayor too about some of the people I think around him are not working on his behalf.
Absolutely, but you're a mayor around one of the biggest metropolises in the world, not just the United States, in the world. It's hard to find people you trust. I struggle with that myself about who I hire, who's in my office. And I've had to let people go because they didn't have the community's interest at heart, or they had some things going on in their life where they needed to step away from government. And so I understand it. He has to hear that. He has to live it. He doesn't get a pass because I know him. And his people doesn't get the pass. Maybe it's time for him to fire some folks and get some new staff. He needs to be told that, but he needs to be told that by his constituency. He doesn't get a pass because he's a Black mayor and because they Black people. No. That's
true.
honest, and that's what the conversations we gotta have.
Yeah, and they need to return phone calls too, because when you don't do that, he gets blamed, not them.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So what is your last word to your constituents and to Chicagoans and the state of Illinois about this upcoming very important general election on November 3rd?
Mhm. We have to get to a place where voting is not enough. Voting is the bare minimum you could do to change this country. Our country is in chaos because we've elected people just by name, just by race, or just by party affiliated. Elect people who actually do the work to make our lives better and who are willing to put their groups and their cliques and their folks on the line to make sure life is better for other people.
Yes.
That's what I would say.
Absolutely. Alderman Jeanette Taylor, warrior of the 20th Ward, thank you so much for being
You're
on
more
the
than
case.
welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Naima Latif, as well.
Absolutely.
See you next
You all have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessing.